Hello, everybody. Dave Neal here, stand-up comic and host of Bachelor Nation News. In this video, I have the pleasure of talking with Jess from the Chatty Broads podcast. I've wanted to talk to her for a long time, and this conversation couldn't have come at a better time. Now, I have to tell you, I'm going to tease you guys. I've had my phone on because as I was recording this, it is several days before I leave for my wedding, which is a destination in Mexico. The wedding dress, which was fitted in May, had yet to arrive. So we got word that FedEx was shipping our wedding dress today, days before I leave for my wedding, and I've had to keep my phone on in case they call while I'm recording, and I'll have you know at the beginning of this podcast, they called. I'm going to keep that part in. I'm going to clip out the minute of dead air, but I'm going to keep it in so you guys can watch in real time as Jess was on the air with me when the wedding dress finally arrived. You're going to love this conversation. Make sure to go follow her on Instagram. There'll be a link below. You can go make sure to stay in touch with her as she starts her new podcast venture. But without further ado, here's my convo with Jess.
Dave, I can't believe we're finally doing this. I'm seeing you face to face aside from just the YouTube. I mean, there's the screen, but
I know it feels
still
weird talking to you because I'm used to watching you and then commenting on you.
Same. I'm used to watching you comment on me, so here we are.
Well, I have to say this. The thing that I look for the most when it comes to amazing personalities is warmth and competence, or a combination of the two. And you scale A+ across the board with your warmth and competence. You are so kind.
Oh my goodness, that is the nicest compliment anyone's ever given me,
Well,
honestly. Especially with an intro for an episode. Oh my God.
You never know what to expect. And I think you sent me a voice note once and I was like, oh, she's actually like, really? You know, like you just never know what you're going to get. But
no, I hear you. Definitely have had those circumstances before where it's like, oh, this is not the energy I thought, but I've loved chatting with you, via the voice memo. Happy to do it now.
And thank you for joining me on my wedding week. I'm over in Mexico, so we're recording this a few days early here, but thank you so much for helping me create some content. I appreciate you.
Oh my goodness, you are such a trooper. The fact that you are creating content before knowing that you're having it planned out through the wedding with all the busyness, I don't know how you're doing it right now.
I need to pause really quick. The wedding dress is arriving today.
Oh my gosh.
Hello? Is it FedEx? Yes. I'll be right there. I'm so sorry. I have to get... We've waited
get
6
the dress.
months.
Get
Just
the dress.
2 minutes.
Get the dress. Get the dress. No, make sure you do not.
How exciting is this? That you get to be a part of this. Everyone who listens to my channel knows that this wedding dress was designed for Tasha. And I'll keep this in the video. People can see this. And
oh yeah, no, this is IRL exciting wedding, the reality of wedding.
And I'm out of breath. Tasha's still here. I forgot she was here. She's going back to work, but she was here. I had my phone on. We had cardboard cutouts when FedEx arrives with my phone number. Like the whole neighborhood has my phone number now because sometimes they say they arrived and they didn't. We were like, you will arrive when we are here. And the wedding dress just arrived from Asia and 5 days before we leave.
I'm like, please go get the dress. That's a very important aspect.
How unprofessional of me to have that happen.
Oh no, are you kidding? If you would have not stopped, I would have been like, I'm driving to your place right now and I'm getting the dress because I feel that energy.
But I would have been like, if that was like a spam call, I never answer my phone, but this was the one time it was FedEx, which means, we went to Chicago to get Tasha's friend from college. She went to design school. Her friend from college designs wedding dresses and said, I'll design your wedding dress. And that was in May. It was supposed to arrive in August. And then the wedding's we're leaving 4 days, 5 days, whatever. And the dress hasn't arrived. So now we have it. We just hope it fits, but we're good.
Has she been okay? Has she been okay in that? I mean, I would have been truly spiraling.
Let me tell you this. Tasha will flip her shit over the most mundane thing. And with that said, she hasn't stressed out at all over the wedding dress. And I asked her and I said, why haven't you cared? She goes, I've got no feelings left. She was like, so maybe she knew and there was divine faith that would arrive, but we figured it out. Anyway, thank you.
Honestly, she looked good in anything, so she could have just grabbed something last minute and she would have looked amazing.
Well, I did want to ask any advice about weddings and or marriage in general for our big day. Any advice you could throw us?
Well, as far as the actual wedding goes, I know people say this, but until you're in the situation, the reality hits where it can tend to become about everyone but you. And sure, it's important to make sure that, the guests and the family feel loved. But I just always tell my friends who are getting married, I'm like, do not put any pressure on yourself to, even though people flew out for you, to have to feel like you have to entertain anyone. This is your day. Everyone's happy to see you in love. And I feel like, at least for me, the temptation was, I'm going to spread myself so thin. I'm just losing it on the actual day. And then all of a sudden I look back on the day and it was good, but I barely saw Evan. I'm like, I want to spend a little bit of time with my now husband. So that's always my biggest piece of advice. Just remember, it's about you guys, for
That's
sure.
some great advice. I think because it's a destination, we'll have most people there for 4+ days, all at the same hotel. So I think that will help. But that's excellent.
Yes.
Yeah,
1,000%. I love the destination idea always,
yeah. I mean,
because
talk about selfish. Like we're like, you're coming to
no,
Mexico.
no, it's one of those things. It's like, hey, you want to come? If not, totally get it. But now you know the people that are there fully for you. Love you both so much.
Yeah. And so, how long have you guys been married now?
We have been married for almost 11 years. And we've been together for like 15, 16 now.
Wow, that's amazing.
Yeah, you two have been together for a long time, right?
About 8 years. Yeah.
Yes. Okay.
Proposed at 5, which was already late, and then we like took our dear time, and then the pandemic hit. Took our dear time some longer, and we're like, all right, we better get this on the books.
I
But
mean, honestly, though, it's like the wait, the long. Obviously, I know we both talk Bachelor, so we always see the quick engagement. But we were the same way. I'm like, we were young, but we still waited for numerous years before ever getting engaged.
did anything change when you got married? What, or is it some, because you hear these people, once you get married you won't know, and I go, we know each other's pooping schedules, we know,
Yes.
we got the allergy chart, like what changes?
Well, I would say for us, it was a pretty big change just because we were young and both grew up very conservative Christian, and we were still in that bubble when we did get married. So we were not living together. So when we did get married, the switch was definitely rattling because we didn't know those schedules with each other. But if we would have been living together, honestly, I don't think that much, other than the fact that it's fun to be like, this is my husband, this is my wife. And there's a certain level of peace because you know that you had the engagement and the wedding and that's what you both wanted to do. But I don't know. I
Yeah,
don't feel like there's that big of a difference, except I like calling him
I'm
husband. That's
excited for
fun.
that. Fiance is so obnoxious. Fiance, I'm so sick of that. But we passed that ultimate level, which was the first year of the pandemic, living in a studio in Koreatown.
Oh,
That's studio in Koreatown. That's the ultimate level.
we used to live in Koreatown too, in a small space, so I feel that for
Oh,
sure.
in the studio, it's like,
And
yeah, the cars are getting lit on fire. She had her car get sideswiped by street racers, and then a homeless guy threw a lit mattress on her car. So it not only got charred, but then the springs scraped the car. It's like Koreatown.
you're like, well, and then the fact that you guys did the pandemic together, that's what one of my girlfriends has been dating someone through the pandemic. And I'm like, you could be with this person forever now, correct? If you did that together for the past few years in Los Angeles when we were locked down for so long,
Well,
coasting,
you know what our
coasting.
final wedding challenge has been is learning the first dance. We're taking professional dance lessons. And I have to say, the learning to communicate physically without words, it really is. I didn't know we were going to experience this, but it really is this final lesson before the wedding where we're really trying to be one with each other in the waltz where otherwise I step on her feet. Like if
Yeah.
I don't communicate with her, I step on her toe.
Oh my god, that's such a beautiful analogy though. That would have been so lovely to do. We didn't plan the first dance and it was very awkward. So I think you
Yeah.
both are in the right direction. We just awkwardly got up and then I remember whispering to the DJ, I'm like, "Can you just keep it short? Don't do the whole song because I don't know. We're both terrible dancers. I don't know what this is going to look like." So a planned dance. That's
Yeah, I
beautiful.
didn't. It wasn't an intention to make it like a learning moment, but we have learned a lot through dance. I mean, I have to say it. And the other thing I'm grateful for, and we can talk about the business of Bachelor, is that my Bachelor channel took off at the beginning of the pandemic, and we can afford this wedding in a way that's not like we can take dance lessons and we can do all these things. How has the Bachelor TV show affected your life with Chatty Broads and all that?
I mean, just like how you're saying with your channel, it changed everything for me. I feel like we don't talk about the business often on the podcast, but I try to take moments to say thank you so much to the audience because our life looked very different before. So I had been a wardrobe stylist before I got pregnant. And then once I had my daughter, it was just the schedule for wardrobe styling, it was just not going to happen. So I took a break from work for a few years. So, you know, it was living in Los Angeles. We're on one salary. We were scraping by. So as soon as this became what it was with Chatty Broads and it became something that we were having sponsors and ads, I mean, it's allowed me the opportunity to have my daughter in classes that we would have been able to afford to have her in. And I'm like, I never thought The Bachelor would be this for me, but I am so very grateful
You
for
you
it.
give me goosebumps because you talk about having classes for your daughter. I'm talking about being able to have kids. You know what I mean? Like just like you with entertainment, working stand-up comedy and all these other aspects of the community, this has been the most reliable source of income where I
Yeah.
can plan ahead. Where before, the phone's ringing, not for the wedding dress, but the phone's ringing and you got to take the job the next morning or not. It kills vacations. It kills all these things. So when
Yeah.
people say like, oh, Dave, you work so hard, it's like, I can't not because I understand what an opportunity it is
Mhm.
to speak directly to an audience. How is that um, how has it becoming a business affected your relationship with your audience? Do you feel like you owe them to be a certain way, or like what's that communication like?
I definitely feel like I want to provide quality product. That's for sure. That's definitely a pressure often, especially, I mean, you absolutely know how this is when you're however many clips or videos or episodes in, to a certain extent. Sometimes you're like, okay, is this going to be a good episode today? I want to make sure that it's good and prepared. And so for me, that's translated in wanting to make sure that I'm prepared going in 1,000%, but also just like quality. For me, I'm very auditory. So for me, it's always like audio quality. And also, I'm like, you always have like the crispy quality. That is really important to me. And I don't know if that's necessarily something that resonates with all the audience, but for me, I'm like, this is how I want to make sure that it's done well because I so appreciate everybody. But 1,000%. I think about it all the time. I want to make sure that I'm providing a good product when people are tuning in. It's already an honor, and the fact that it is able to become a way that I can help support my family.
Yeah, and I've said this
Absolutely.
about those of us that are sort of blue collar bachelor commentators.
I
We
like that
we
term.
don't have the luxury of being gifted six-figure followings and can just
No.
turn on the no offense to Joe, I always use grocery store Joe, but like he's watching a football game off the camera. He's just like, it's a paycheck. It's all right. It's not there isn't equity in like this thing you've built versus this is like there are thousands of recap channels, podcasts. They're all out there.
Yes.
I did this for 7
Yes.
years before any of it took off. So
Mhm.
there is this sort of like respect for the audience that is paying you through their time. And
Oh, absolutely.
I see you guys having that gratitude, but your audience, big Venn diagram for our audience, probably a good portion. I know when you guys announced last week that you were going to, dissolve Chatty Broads, I got more breaking news messages sent to me for that story than anything else of recent news, and it just goes to show that your audience has been so loyal to you. My question before we
Amazing.
talk about moving forward with what you're doing
Yeah,
next is now obviously your audience, and I don't mean to generalize everybody, but they
sure.
expect decency, equality, progress, social justice. How do you operate within your authentic self, but also try to do right by them?
Since we started this channel, or podcast, excuse me, for me, I've learned more than I can really verbalize through the audience. Um, whether it comes to social justice, like, I mean, all sorts of topics, I've learned so much, and that happened from the very beginning of like our early episodes. And so to me, this has been just a growing process while we record every single episode. So of course, I also, want to protect my brain, so I try to limit my time on social media and in the DMs, but at the same time I try to really hear the audience, because I know there's a lot of things, and I have been learning this vastly in my 30s, that I was raised with, that are not right, and things that I'm learning constantly. And I'm learning like 99% of that through the audience. And so it means a lot to me when people have taken their time to write and say, hey, when you guys discuss this, like, this is where this like was problematic, or that you need to maybe take some time to think from this perspective more. And so I try to do a job of just like, when I consume when I consume the DMs and the emails, like in a headspace where I'm like, I want to receive and I'm open, but I'm then so grateful for it, because I think that's really changed my life and perspective, and it's made me a better parent as I'm raising my kid, which
I,
I'm so grateful
Yeah,
for.
can you imagine? Like, I grew up in Rhode Island. My mom did her best, but she was a single mom at 22, working. Like, she didn't
Wow,
have the
yeah.
ability to like
God bless
maybe
her.
I don't know how many child raising books she had. She did a okay job, but now it's like I feel like this next evolution of being a parent is really like, okay, how do I not mess my kid up? How do I teach them about things so that they don't do blackface in eighth grade or all these
Yeah.
crazy things that
Yeah.
we're unearthing from our childhood in the 90s and 2000s. Like, do you like, because you had mentioned coming from a conservative, a religious background,
Yes.
would
Yes.
you label that as purity culture, or just like a sort of unlearning the toxicity but keeping, like, where do you stand with all that?
Well, it definitely was purity culture. It was everything. It was a very, very stringent conservative, not open community that I was raised in. So that's been a massive unlearning process for me throughout the years in all different areas, when it comes to sex, when it comes to social justice, when it comes to the diversity in faiths and religion, like everything. I was taught so much that like this is the right way, that's it, and it's like there's no bending. And all of a sudden, you know, I'm so grateful for, because of friends, the community from our podcast, all of this, that I'm like, wow, I have a lot of unlearning and relearning to do. So yeah, that's been, when you're talking about your mom, now I'm so grateful that I'm able to be like, I feel privileged that I've been able to be learning a lot of this from the audience, that then I can also have resources to direct myself when I do have these conversations with my child. And I will say something about kids, they sure know more than we give them credit for. I mean, the concepts I've been able to have conversations with my 6-year-old, even when she was younger, blow my mind. Like the fact, I'm like, there's no way that we're gonna be able, that she's gonna get what I'm saying. Fully gets it. It's it's not just that she's this brilliant child. It's, we don't give them that credit, and it's amazing then to watch just her grow, and I'm so grateful for that opportunity.
I'm looking forward to it myself. And by the way, what a cool mom! I think I posted this when you had your first day of school. Walking your kid to class, or whatever. I was like, oh, we had a cool mom here. You got a Sublime shirt on. Golly, save some for the rest of us out there.
Oh my god. No, you should see the parents at her school. I'm like, "Oh man, I gotta like up my game."
Oh
Some
yeah, I
cool
can't.
families.
That's like a version of Los Angeles I'm not quite familiar with. Although I did have cousins in like Calabasas, but like coming from just like boring old Rhode Island. Rhode Island's beautiful, but it's kind of like a boring, very white bread kind of people there that I can't imagine how different the culture is out here, where you can actually have your school lunch outside. I mean, we were locked up like prison in New England there.
Gosh. Oh my
Now
gosh.
now
Yeah, no.
I wanted to ask you about Becca, because obviously
Yes.
you have the Chatty Broads podcast. What relationship with her? How did your views of Bachelor alumni and what they go through change from hosting this podcast with Becca?
Oh, full 180. Full 180. I was just, before we started this podcast, I always loved reality TV. I grew up with it. And so when I would watch The Bachelor, I'd typically watch it with my mom, and I would watch it just as, a standard viewer, kind of accepting what was being fed to me. I'd like to think that I was a little more like, I bet there's something going on, but I just kind of consumed it and then turned it off. I wasn't deep in, podcasts or Instagrams involving The Bachelor until we started this podcast together. And I will never forget when I met Becca, and we weren't like really friends, but we just had mutual friends, and she had just or the show had just aired its first episode when I met her. And I remember having a conversation with her and walking away and being like, whoa, there's a lot of stress behind this show that I had no idea about. And so, now when we have this podcast, obviously there's plenty of things that she cannot talk about because the insidiousness of contracts means that it does to a certain extent last for forever. But I've definitely, and just as you have, I'm quite sure, built relationships with Bachelor alumni, and you're like, I can't say certain things, but you are aware of certain things that will shock you and give you a lot more empathy to the circumstance.
That's the key word, and it's a broken record on my channel talking about empathy and grace, but it's almost like if you see some athlete, you get this, God forbid, athletes decide to protest and take a knee during the national anthem. Shut up and play. You have people have no idea what these men and women go through and risk their bodies for, and the pressures and all these different things. Reality TV is a different way, but all these different places of quote unquote privilege that exist do come with some losing your anonymity. A lot of people that can't understand celebrity culture and what it would be like to be followed around when you're trying to just walk your kid or have a bad day, like all these sort of things. When you do expose yourself to knowing an alumni like Becca, you do get to see that it's not all cheery, and the audience might not understand that because they just see, oh my gosh, she gets paid X amount to post a photo, and you don't get to see the business that exists underneath it. And nobody works more than small business owners who work for themselves, because the clock just is always ticking.
It's nonstop, baby.
So yeah. we talked about this consistency of having chatty broads in a world where we're freelancers and we're working here and there. Ending it, and your decision to end it, how does that feel moving forward into the unknown?
Oh man, it's spooky. It's definitely nerve-wracking for sure. It's this combination of, there's the grief because I love recording and seeing her every week and being able to, it's just how all podcasts and channels are. You have these conversations that you would never have, even with certain friends, where you're just kind of spilling your guts and getting deep into things. So I'm definitely going to miss that. But I'm excited. And we both feel like, we both have kind of different concepts of what we want to do moving forward. She always, she's always doing a million things, that woman. I do not know how she functions. She always has 1,000 projects. And so she's trying to figure out what she wants. And for myself, I'm like, you know what? I love talking about reality TV. I realized recently that reality TV was definitely like the sports for me growing up, because my parents didn't watch sports. They watched reality TV. So it's nostalgia for me. But just how you were saying, I'm in this position where I'm like, I want to keep having these conversations about reality TV. Sure, I'm not an alumni, but I like talking about the show because I feel like I have this different perspective on it after having a relationship with Becca and meeting different Bachelor alum. But then I also like to have conversations to use it kind of as almost like parables, to be like, okay, these are circumstances that, if you were like this in a relationship, maybe we wouldn't do this. And let's talk about why we wouldn't, and just kind of have it be this playbook. And I love that idea. So I'm excited to dive into it. But as far as starting a new business venture goes, it's nerve-wracking. I hope and pray that people continue to follow along and watch and support. I totally get it if it's like, no, we like Chatty Broads and that's it. But sure, you know exactly how it goes, or you're like, oh, if I'm starting something new, oh my gosh, especially when it's been for the past few years, this has been just, it's been consistent for us.
Yeah. And I'm the same way, where I'm like, how do I put my eggs in a different basket here? Because God forbid YouTube changes their revenue algorithm. I could be in trouble. Right. I'm going to be diving into daily podcasts in the audio format that basically is what I'm already doing, but just a new avenue. But it's a risk. Now, if I was a gambling man and I had to bet between you and, I hate to use the example again, grocery store Joe, I would bet on you 100% of the time, because you've built this audience and you've proven the concept. they will follow you. The most loyal people will. It's almost like I talk about this with stand-up. Sometimes when you have to go up last on a long stand-up show, it's like, oh, I got to go up last. It's the audience is going to be tired, and which can be the case. But sometimes the most loyal and attentive audiences are the ones that stick around the longest, and that's who you really want. And I'd rather have 12 people in a comedy club than 100 that are just waiting to go to the next part of their date night. And you might find that you don't get 100% of your audience to come over, but you might fortify those that really support you, and those are the ones that probably pay for 80% of the different things that help you provide. And I think what audiences have to realize is that, like, you know, podcasts are free. YouTube, people can watch it for free. Obviously, there's a price to listening to an ad read or two or three. But that, like
how many can we get in there, Dave?
Yeah, well,
4, 5, 6.
4 is a tough one. This one, I got to pay for Tasha's ring. I might have to go 9 or 10 here. Just bear with me, folks. Don't skip. But you do, the people that really believe in you, they're not just there for your takes. They're there to watch you grow, to watch your children, to hear your story of maturing as a mother. And that type of audience is worth way more than anything. Tasha's leaving. Bye, Tasha. Did the wedding ring arrive? Did the wedding dress arrive? Yeah. All right, breaking news. The wedding dress is here. We've got the wedding dress. All right, I'll talk to you in a little bit, okay? Okay, it's in the room. I'm not allowed to look. I'm not allowed to look at the wedding dress.
You cannot go in. Oh, deep breath.
But here's the deal. We have to learn how to dance with this dress on. So I might blindfold myself and then just do one lesson with her, just so I don't.
I'm picturing you blindfolded in the actual dance, like at your wedding, very like tango energy. Like, let's blindfold Dave.
We got a 9-hour open bar, so we're just gonna pray that those coronitas don't do me in.
Oh yeah, you'll be using the blindfold, after a few drinks. Get back on the dance floor.
Now here's the deal. Maybe that's a good way to circle it all together. I could talk to you for 15 hours. This is the first time we've ever really communicated outside of voice notes. I love what you're doing. I'm excited. You are going to be, I don't know if you've fully announced it, but you are going to be starting your own podcast.
Yes, I'm going to be starting my podcast. It's going to either come out the week or like the week after Chatty Broads ends, mid-November. And it's going to be with my husband, and we're going to be talking about different reality TV shows, recaps, Bachelor, probably Love is Blind. And then also relationships, wanting to talk to cool couples. Would love to be with you and Tasha after you guys get married, and you can hop on the podcast and break down different, fun relationship stories. So I'm really excited.
I'm really excited for you. Do you have like a specific launch time, or are you just kind of working on it?
We will be announcing the launch time in probably the next 2 weeks with the name of the podcast and all the fun photos and everything.
And as things go, you might be a little bit out of the Bachelor niche, and maybe the podcast quadruples in size. Like you just never know what to expect.
You never know. And that's what I'm so excited about. It's like, you know how it goes. It's like you take that risk and you're so nervous, but when you start to branch out, it's like I have to be authentic. That's what Beck and I have talked about. What's really important to us and what we want to honor our audience through is authenticity. And so this isn't the space where her and I feel like we need to be right now. So we're going to be authentic to ourselves. She's going to do her thing and I'm going to do mine. And I hope that whatever comes out of that authenticity, the people enjoy. But I gotta be authentic.
And I'll say this, if you can, I know it's tough as creators, but if you can enjoy the spookiness, as you mentioned, of approaching your new podcast, enjoy that. I think you'll just appreciate the growth that much more. And I set the bar high for you. I set it very high for warmth and competence, and you just shattered it. So I'm really glad.
So appreciate that last sentiment. Like, I'm going to hold on to that.
I'll be honest. I don't like doing these things. I don't like the internet. And I do love that you had mentioned if we chat with you to do it in person. I'm a big in-person person, but this really helps me out with the wedding week to be able to have a couple of these conversations. And I know my audience is going to go absolute wild hearing from you right now. So thank you for...
I'm so honored to come and be featured on your channel.
Yeah, of course. Thank you again. And where can people find you while they wait for your announcement? Instagram?
Yes, you can find me at The Bad Mom with 2 Ds.
Well, thank you so much, and I'll see you after the wedding.
Yes, I can't wait. Congratulations.
Thanks again.
The dress is going to fit. It's going to be perfect.
Thanks. Thank you guys so much for watching. Leave a comment below. I really appreciate all of your support while I'm away on my wedding week. And if there's any breaking news, you know that I'll have that for you. Otherwise, have a good one, and I'll talk to you soon. Bye, guys.